not a movie set. That's an actual fire station. It's part of Universal City. Yeah, we're a city. We're part of Los Angeles County. It's called Fire Station 51 because it's named after the fire station in the popular 1970s television show Emergency. So after we drive you through our timeline, which, by the way, traces our history to over 100 years ago when we started making movies. We are the oldest movie studio here in Hollywood. You're also going to see a lot of our sound stages here in our front lot. The oldest and biggest one we have is the one directly in front of you. It is Stage 12. It was built in 1929 for the musical Broadway. It's currently home to the hit reality singing competition show, The Voice, hosted by Carson Daly, and in its 17th season. Every season they mix up the coaches a little bit. This time they have Blake Shelton, John Legend, Gwen Stefani, and Kelly Clarkson, who spends a lot of time here at Universal these days, actually, because not only is Kelly Clarkson a coach on The Voice, but she has her own TV show called The Kelly Clarkson Show, and she films inside Stage 1, which is a little bit further back behind the other sound stages up here in our front lot. Stage 12 has also housed a lot of memorable and amazing movie sets over the years. Here are just a few examples of the different sets we've created inside of that stage. As we drive through this area, I'm going to turn the volume down a bit and talk softly. That's because it's a very active filming area inside the sound stages on your left. In fact, if any of the red wigwag lights, which are the lights right outside the sound stages, are flashing, I will go completely off the microphone, because even though our sound stages are about 98% soundproof, give or take, there is always a possibility that the sound from the microphone could leak into the filming. We wouldn't want that to happen. Stages 16 and 17 over here on your left are popular because they're home to the hit TV show Superstore, which is on Thursday nights on NBC. It stars America Ferrera, Ben Feldman, Colton Dunn, and Mark McKinney. Now, the sets that are inside stages 16 and 17 are pretty huge because it's a giant store. If you haven't seen the show, it takes place in what is called Cloud 9, which is a fictional store, but it's very similar to a Target or a Walmart or any of those type of large stores that you go shopping in. And it also takes place in St. Louis, Missouri. Even though none of it is actually filmed there, it's all filmed here in Hollywood. All the illusions here, and we're just getting started. Over here you can also see a lot of the trailers that are used by the actors on different productions. These ones are for Superstore. Sometimes you'll have the trailers for the costume and makeup departments as well. Stage 21, which actually has the elephant door open, so kind of cool that you can get to see some of the sets in there. That is also used for the TV show Superstore, so they occupy a few different sound stages here in our front lot. Now, as far as our television shows go, I've given you a few examples of current ones, but let's see a little bit of our history, because it goes all the way back to the 1939 New York World's Fair. That was our first broadcast ever. And then in the 1950s, we were pioneers of TV. Jumping to the 1980s, we were king of the one-hour drama with shows like The A-Team, Miami Vice, and Murder, She Wrote. We also had a lot of hit sitcoms, and many of them were filmed on your right. We called this area Sitcom Alley. The sound stages here were home to TV shows like The Facts of Life, Give Me a Break, Different Strokes, Who's the Boss, and Charles in Charge. These days, a lot of our hit shows. We also have another very popular show that used to shoot in Stage 44 called The Good Place. It's no longer filming, but it starred Ted Danson and Kristen Bell. They've wrapped up that series for good. I know. See her. Sad, but it happens. All right, over here on your left, you'll see a celebrity greeting us as we drive you toward our bungalows. No, it's Ted, you guys. Ted is toasting with this very dirty martini. Yeah. If you don't know who Ted is and you're a child, that's probably a good thing. But it's a very popular movie, and the sequel, both of them produced by Bluegrass Productions. And Bluegrass Productions sometimes has an office here in our bungalows on your left-hand side. Many executives, directors, writers, producers have their offices here. A lot of them have development deals with the studio, and a lot of times it takes a long time to get through the development stage because you have to come up with the budget and the casting, and you have to greenlight a project, and you have to have the idea in the first place, right? The script. All of that tends to happen here. Mark Platt Productions, they have an office here. They produce the Broadway musical Wicked, which we're told is going to come to life on the big screen at some point, who knows when. Also produced Legally Blonde and La La Land. Illumination Entertainment also has offices here. They did the Despicable Me films, The Lorax, Sing, and The Secret Life of Pets. Actress Elizabeth Banks also has a production office here. Her office is where the brownstone sign is over there on your left. Just past that, you'll see the office that once belonged to master of suspense Alfred Hitchcock. It now belongs to the Dino De Laurentiis Company, producers of the TV show Hannibal. And just past our bungalows, we have a couple of newer sound stages behind the executive offices over here. One of them is home to the revival of the show Will and Grace, which is actually filming its last season. And next to that is another soundstage often used for the TV show America's Got Talent, hosted by Terry Crews. Now I'm going to go off the mic because remember I mentioned how the TV show Punky Brewster, the reboot of the show, is filming. They're actually using the Metropolitan sets, which are right up here past the sound stages. So I'll go off the mic for a quiet zone for a little bit. We'll also head in to Skull Island. Tell you more about that after the quiet zone. Area and the tunnel that is going to lead us to Skull Island. So a brief reminder to remain seated. It is likely to be a bumpy ride up here, okay? You might want to keep your personal belongings tucked away as well and have those 3D glasses ready.
On everybody, we're back to Skull Island.
As we head back into the tour without the quiet zones. There'll be another one later on during the tour, but in the meantime, these are our picture cars on display. Some of these featured in very memorable productions. You can see some on your screens as well. And when you talk about picture cars, you definitely want to mention our Fast and Furious films. They featured hundreds of vehicles. These are just a few of them used for those movies. We're still making the Fast and Furious movies too. Over the summer, we released the Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw. And we'll make a 9th and a 10th film. Those are slated to happen for sure. And probably more after that. Maybe more spin-offs, I don't know. The last couple made over $1 billion a piece for us, so I'm sure we're not done making the Fast and Furious movies. Another franchise that is also making $1 billion apiece for us is our Jurassic World films. So I'm sure we're not done with those. In fact, I can tell you this. Jurassic World 3 is slated to come out in theaters June of 2021. So mark your calendars. But it began with this one, though, of course.
To Jurassic Park.
The set pieces and vehicles you see up here were featured in different Jurassic Park films. The mobile lab over here on your left was in this scene in The Lost World with Vince Vaughn, Julianne Moore, and Jeff Goldblum. This was actually filmed outside of a parking structure that we drove by earlier, on our front lot. They just decorated it to make it look like a cliff. Pretty cool. Now, Jurassic World 3 is not only going to come out in 2021, but it's going to star the stars of the first Jurassic Park film. So, Jurassic World 3 will have Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard, and also Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum on board. Very excited for that. I'll tell you what, though, those dinosaurs are not going to be in any of the Jurassic World films because they're too fake. And speaking of fake, you can see fake trees over here. Definitely made out of styrofoam. You can tell when you see them up close. But they look real enough on screen, which is all that really matters. Now, even though we have a lot of real greenery here on our property, you don't always want to use real trees. The lights on set can cause a lot of damage. They get very, very hot. Also, you can staple leaves and flowers on trees to create the look of different seasons. I've seen them do it. We have arrived here in Old Mexico. This area has been featured in a lot of different productions over the years. It was in the beginning of Three Amigos with Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, and Martin Short. In the HBO series Westworld, pretty recently with that one, Nacho Libre with Jack Black, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull with Harrison Ford, a couple of the Pirates of the Caribbean films. This area was China and Hop with Russell Brand and Chelsea Handler, and also in music videos like Lady Gaga's Judas and Janet Jackson's Escapade. But now we're going across the border, taking from Mexico up to Texas. These are some of the oldest sets that we have in our back lot because they were prominently featured in our Western films many years ago when those movies were our bread and butter. But these sets are still used for filming. In fact, they're frequently seen in Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring A-listers Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. A little over 40 minutes of that movie used all of these sets. Pretty cool. Now, if you were to actually film a Western out here, you would probably want to bring out all the set pieces and props and cover the whole paved road here with dirt. That really makes it look like the West as opposed to the cement ground we're driving on now. Now, if you're going to do that, though, you may not want to just grab any old dirt that you find because dirt can cause a lot of dust clouds on set. So, to solve that problem, there is a company here in Hollywood, Hollywood Dirt, that will actually rent dirt to you for filming. Yes, it is stickier, much more user-friendly. The things you learn here. Yeah. Now, a lot of the backlot sets, including the ones here in our western area, are facades, meaning they're just the sides and fronts of buildings. Typically, we only use our backlot sets for exteriors. So when an actor opens a door, goes inside, the director yells cut, that's it. Interior filming mostly happens inside sound stages. So when you have just the sides and fronts of buildings, you're just showing what the camera needs to see. You don't use the whole structure, and you can change it as much as you want to. Easy to change the sets and paint them different colors because what looks like is brick and stone, most of that is just plywood and cardboard and fiberglass. Yeah. Easier to work with, also a lot cheaper. Nothing is what it appears to be here in Hollywood. Recently, these sets were also used in an upcoming feature called Call of the Wild, based on the novel starring Harrison Ford. Also, in Disney's movie, Saving Mr. Banks. And for that, this area was the Australian outback. Wasn't the Old West at all. By the way, you may have gotten the impression that it's not just about Universal films that film here, and that's true. We are a rental facility. Disney, Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, all the big names can come here and film. We'll rent to them. We don't discriminate. It's not really competitive until we get to the box office, and it's on, right? Now, we are about at the halfway point of the tour, so just a quick reminder that the studio is private property. If you absolutely have an emergency or you need to pull the cord, you can for any reason that you need to. We've been driving all over the world because we went from Mexico to Texas. That's the Pacific Ocean on the left, or it can be if you use just a portion of it. It was that in McHale's Navy. And then directly in front of us, we have Europe. Those are our little Europe sets. Most well known for being part of our classic monster movies many years ago. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Mummy, and also recently used for The Good Place. I'm going to go off mic in just a moment, though, because we're getting close to an area used by the Hallmark Channel to film their TV show Home and Family. It's right up here. And then we'll go inside one of our sound stages right after this quiet zone is over with.
Universal Studios fans, I'm Cameron Matson.
And I'm Debbie Matnover from the Emmy-nominated television show Home and Family.
Join us as we go behind the scenes with your favorite actors, musicians, and celebrity chefs.
Plus amazing DIYs, fun fashions, and so much more.
Make sure to watch Home and Family on Hallmark Channel every weekend.
Should be the last quiet zone. We'll see what happens, but we're out of that filming area. Do stay seated. We're just going to stop here for a moment so you can take a look around at our permanent subway set. This is our only permanent set that we actually have inside a soundstage. Most of the time you bring sets inside sound stages, and guys, it's California. We get these rumors all the time, so don't worry about it. Anyway, what I was saying was, okay, this feels like a little more natural. Of the show Bones with David Boreanaz and Emily Deschanel loved our earthquake attraction so much they decided to duplicate it for one of their episodes. Basically, they just gave it a high-tech upgrade.
I want to give it.
What's going on? How you doing?
For everybody, I realize, so we're gonna take a break and sort of calm things down a little bit. We're gonna head up to Amity Island. It's a very peaceful area. It wasn't peaceful when it was terrorized by a great white shark, but guys, nothing to worry about. We're all good because we caught the shark. Now, do stay seated as we drive along this pier, but we caught the shark, so everything is fine, and it's a good thing because the shark was really doing a number on the town, leaving a path of death and destruction in its wake. And there it is. That's pretty cool, huh? You can see it. Now, other than that, it's a very quaint, quiet little town, Amity Island. Not much happening here ever, but there's an old Amity police boat. Nobody uses that anymore. Cute little old bakery. Pretty good croissants there. Oh, well. Okay, so there's another shark, but nobody swims in that water. Oh, wait a minute, there's somebody there. Oh, I think that might be Scuba Scott. Hey, Scott! Scott, is that you? Scott? There's a shark! Okay. Oh, great, Scott. Wrong Universal film. But anyway, little club soda probably get that out. Alright. You guys, we're probably going to be fine. We're going to make our way down to the end of this pier and stop over here where we're going to be safe over by these barrels of flammable gasoline. I'm sure we'll be fine. Nothing could go wrong. And there's a barrel out there at the end of the pier. I think we have some bait out there to distract the shark, so that's good. There's just a little fire. I think that actually scares sharks away. Well, suddenly I'm craving a marshmallow. melted than the shark used for the film Jaws. Well, there are several sharks that they use, mechanical ones, for the movie Jaws. Not real ones, of course, but on the very first day of shooting the movie Jaws, the plastic shark they were using that day actually sank all the way to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, prompting the crew to start nicknaming the production Flaws. Here to tell you guys more about that is the Academy Award-winning director of Jaws himself, Mr. Steven Spielberg, and actors Richard Dreyfuss and the late Roy Scheider.
That's a much maligned shark. The shark was frustrating. It didn't really work all the time. It didn't work hardly at all.
Wherever you were on the island, you could hear the radio waves. They were always saying, "The shark is not working. Repeat, the shark is not working."
We just waited around. We just waited and waited and waited.
The shark worked well enough. For a while there, I had the biggest hit of all time. So I really owe the shark a lot.
There is Steven with Bruce the Shark, whom he intentionally named after his attorney, Bruce Raymer, in case you're and it's still his attorney, so that's a good thing. Over here, you can see one of our residential neighborhoods. This is Elm Street. Has nothing to do with nightmares, just happens to be called that. It was featured not long ago in the TV show 911 with Peter Krause and Angela Bassett. Also goes all the way back to To Kill a Mockingbird. It's where Boo Radley lived. Over on your right, you'll see a house we refer to often as our chicken ranch. It was Miss Mona's Chicken Ranch in the best little whorehouse in Texas back in the 80s. Dolly Parton and the late great Burt Reynolds. You can see some other productions that filmed out here. The unique thing about that house is that it's a practical set. So it's not like the other backlot sets that I was telling you about earlier. Facades and shells. That's a practical set. We could shoot inside if we wanted to, as well as outside. Most of our other backlot sets are not like that. If they're not facades, they're what we call shells, which is basically where we take the sides and the fronts of the buildings and we top it off with a roof, and that's it. Most of the houses here on Colonial Street are like that. They're essentially just shells. It's a very quintessential suburban neighborhood. It's called Colonial Street. It also is often recognized as being Wisteria Lane, as it was for 8 seasons of ABC's show Desperate Housewives. So, fun little detail, there's a gray house up here on your left-hand side that happens to have a eucalyptus tree growing in the middle of it, which is a great reason why you wouldn't want to shoot inside a house like that, right? But the house all the way at the very end of the street, which is the newest one, it was built between seasons 1 and 2 of Desperate Housewives, is the only one that is fully practical out here. So that means if we wanted to, we could create a kitchen in there, or a living room, or a bedroom, and shoot inside that house. It was used last year for a short-lived TV show called Abby's. It's no longer on the air. I'm sure it'll be used again eventually. You can see some other examples of different productions that filmed out here on Colonial Street, including The Birds. Love this one with Tom Hanks. Casper with Christina Ricci. Music videos like Nelly's Dilemma filmed out here. You guys remember that? Smash Mouth's All-Star also filmed out here. And the house on your right, that was once in Bedtime for Bonzo with Ronald Reagan before he was president of the United States. One of the houses over here on the left was in Ted 2 with Mark Wahlberg. A lot of these homes were in Why Him with Bryan Cranston and James Franco. The Lavender House over here on your right was once 1313 Mockingbird Lane in the Munsters in the 1960s. Yep. It's been painted and refurbished since then, but it is the same house. Next to that is a home that was in Harvey with Jimmy Stewart. And a couple classic homes that we have on your left over here include the Matlock House and the Nancy Drew House. And I believe that's getting a resurgence of sorts. Somebody's making a Nancy Drew series. It ain't Universal, which is why I don't know too much about it. But anyway, over here on the left, the very last house is the House of the Seven Gables, in a movie, a horror film with Vincent Price. Always like to throw in the horror films when I can, because, you know, Universal is so famous for the horror genre. And now we're going to take you from the suburbs up Wilderness Road. It's called that perhaps for obvious reasons, because it's a lot of nature, right? Now you may think, big deal. Well, it's a very unique thing that Universal has to offer, because if you go to Warner Brothers or Paramount or these other studios, they basically exist on one backlot as well as 11 sound stages to bring the magical world of Dr. Seuss to life. One of those sound stages was used just for costume and makeup. We used enough artificial snow to cover 9 football fields, and all of that is pretty much styrofoam. That's a small portion of what we created to be Whoville. We used over 2 million linear feet of styrofoam and 1,938 candy cans, in case you were wondering. But those Whos did not choose their neighbors very well. They lived right next door to a Psycho, the original Psycho, the OG, if you will, here at the Bates Motel. Now, it's a bit decrepit these days, but if anyone is looking for a place to stay, I believe there might be some rooms available here.
Oh, we have 12 vacancies. 12 cabins, 12
There you go.
vacancies.
I hear they're slashing prices. They'll give you a killer deal, you guys. Anyway, if you do stay there, I would not recommend taking a shower. Just a little advice. However, you do get a nice view of the Psycho House. Up here as we drive on Psycho Pass, or as I like to call it, Psychopath. Yes. The jokes just keep getting better, don't they? Over here on your left, it's the original Psycho House from Alfred Hitchcock's classic thriller released back in 1960. It was not in this exact location during the filming of Psycho. It was on a different hill, actually, but it was moved here in the 1970s. And just past the Psycho House, you'll see one of the most impressive movie sets ever created, the spectacular crash site from Steven Spielberg's 2005 film, War of the Worlds. We're going to stop in the middle of the set so you can all get some photos. Once we're stopped, if you'd like to stand to take pictures, you're welcome to do so, but please wait until the tram has come to a full and complete stop. And in case you're wondering, that's an actual airplane. Yeah, it was a retired 747 purchased specifically for War of the Worlds, starring Tom Cruise and Dakota Fanning.
The airplane crash site set is a perfect example of a set that is all designed around a vision that Steven had.
And for them to sit down to talk about the War of the World, I thought, what if the 747 goes down right in a big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
You're doing good. You're doing good. Keep pressing me. Listen, man. Listen, I want you to close your eyes.
Boeing 747. It was purchased for about $60,000. On top of that, it cost about $200,000 to have it shipped here and broken apart into pieces. Let's get you on the shipping. We have about 10 minutes before we get you back into the theme park. Just a quick reminder to stay seated. If you have to pull the emergency cord for any reason, you can. Now, a couple things great outdoors with the late John Candy. Don't talk about it. And just beyond the log cabin, you'll see the world's largest freestanding backdrop. You can't miss it. It's such a bright blue color, right? Well, oftentimes it's kept that color so that scenes can be filmed out here that would require adding digital technology, or what we call CGI, in the post-production phase. A great example of that is the scene from the movie Sully with Tom Hanks.
Evacuate.
For this scene in Sully, which was based on a true story, we filled up that basin in front of the backdrop with water to make it look like the real Hudson River. Brought out a real airplane, put it in the middle of the basin, and kept the backdrop the blue color to add all of the skyline buildings and everything you'd see in the background with CGI, digital effects later on in post-production. Pretty amazing, yeah. So that's one great example. It's also used for movies like Bumblebee, one of the Transformers spin-offs, Hunger Games: Catching Fire, Christopher Nolan's films Inception and Dunkirk. It all goes all the way back to movies like The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, and music videos too, like TLC's Waterfalls and Beyonce's Formation. Oh yeah, okay, so minor detail. So, yeah, there's been a bit of an issue on the property recently. This criminal, his name is Shaw, he's been around. So we're gonna divert the route a little bit, try to protect you guys because of this problem. So this is looks like a pretty cool stolen car.